Yesterday, the New York Times annual DealBook Summit invited prominent speakers such as the Ukrainian president, the Treasury Secretary of the US, Facebook CEO, New York City Mayor, TikTok CEO, Amazon CEO, and SBF. Nope, that's right, SBF. I don't make the rules here. So it's been the longest 2 weeks in crypto, with crypto Twitter enraged over the comparison of SBF walking free while Tornado Cash developer is still rotting in jail. In any case, we the public may not know for a long time. And if you're like me, I've been pretty frustrated watching it all unfold in real time, and even more so seeing this guy continue to be given major platforms such as this Dealsummit. Like, what more could be said at this point to make the wrongs right? Well, let's see how Andrew Sorkin softball grills SBF.
One of the letters I got, I want to read to you, Sam, because it's from a gentleman who said that he lost his life savings. And the subject line is, Sam Bankman-Fried stole $2 million from me. It says, Andrew, can you please ask SBF why he decided to steal my life savings and the $10 billion more from customers to give to his hedge fund, Alameda? Can you ask him why his hedge fund was leveraging long all of these S coins? I'm going to keep it polite for the kids. Please ask him if he thinks what happened was fraud. These are the kinds of letters that I've been getting repeatedly over the past several days. What do you tell this man?
Yeah, I mean, I'm deeply sorry about what happened. Here's, the long and short of what happened. And I'll start by saying, just to make a distinction here, you look at the US platform, you look at the international platform. The US platform, it's a US regulated platform with American users. To my knowledge, that's fully solvent. That's fully funded. And
solvent.
I believe that withdrawals could be opened up today.
So call me crazy, but I still think he's lying. Isn't the definition of bankruptcy the opposite of being fully solvent? Didn't he include FTX US in his bankruptcy filing?
And everyone could be made whole from that none of these problems plagued the US platform.
Never used FTX before, but drop me a comment if you're actually able to withdraw your funds right now. Otherwise, like and subscribe. So this interview was honestly pretty painful to watch, and it was also promoted as click here to watch for free, but actually paywall. I watched it through other streams, but I'll spare you the rest of SBF's cringeworthy acting. Now, CoffeeZilla did do a really nice sort of succinct thread on the whole interview, so I just want to share some of that with you instead. The crowd erupted in applause as the interviewer thanks SBF for coming on. To be fair, crowds for live shows are partially, if not fully, filled by paid participants, and there are applause and laugh cue cards that you have to follow, saying so from personal experience. So CoffeeZilla says that SBF is putting on a bullshit masterclass on the New York Times interview, and here's his thread on it. Sam first claims that he was not involved with Alameda Research and was unaware of the commingling of funds, when in fact, for years you had to wire Alameda Research money to even get money on FTX, so funds were always commingled. And then he is dodging every major question with a claim of ignorance and shock at what was going on with his own company. He's really trying to work the I am just simply a bumbling fool angle, and I had no malicious intent to actually steal the funds. I just simply lost them, which is not really illegal. He actually spoke to an Alameda employee about this. CoffeeZilla actually asked an Alameda employee saying, was it likely that Sam could have not seen an $8 billion margin position? And the employee almost laughed. They said, no way that Sam didn't know. And then Sorkin eventually returns to the Alameda topic saying, hey, you claim not to be a part of this company, but you're clearly involved with venture capital. SBF claims it's a different company, which is kind of crazy because he literally lived with Alameda executives and rumored to have dated, if not still on and off, dating the CEO of Alameda. And then apparently when Sorkin asks about criminal liability, SBF gets noticeably nervous, saying he doesn't think he did anything wrong, he's speaking against the wishes of his lawyers, and that he just didn't think about it. And in terms of addressing the FTX hack, SBF claims that there may have been some improper access, but doesn't know the details and doesn't know who's behind it. Still tries to claim that FTX US is 100% solvent and says he doesn't know why they aren't processing withdrawals, when in fact Sam himself signed the Chapter 11 bankruptcy papers for FTX, including FTX US. SBF apparently addresses a $1.2 billion loan with Genesis, and he says it's Alameda's role and that he doesn't know a lot, but then proceeds to literally give a play-by-play on what happened. This is very similar to a previous interview he did where he denies that FTX is a Ponzi and then proceeds to describe essentially how FTX is a Ponzi. Says he was hyper aware of his image and in fact donated equally to both Democratic and Republican politicians, but he hid the money that he donated to Republicans because he didn't want the woke media to get upset and have this battle. And then Sorkin calls out the whole charity angle and asks if this was part of Sam's scheme to create regulation to self-certify what was going on at FTX/Alameda. And this is where Sam is nervous again. Now they talk about whether Sam paid his way to meetings with Gary Gensler. Says it was harder than he thought to get meetings with people. Says he didn't buy his way in. It was simply elbow grease. At this point, you kind of have to laugh at what a clown show is becoming. When he found out FTX and Alameda was collapsing, he told his parents, like, hey guys, something might be wrong and that nobody close to me deserved this. And yet, it's been reported that Sam's parents bought millions of dollars of real estate in the Bahamas with the intention of it going to FTX, of which Sam claims to not know many of the details. A recurring theme at this point. So yeah, then Sorkin asks him about drug use, to which SBF replies that he barely drinks, doesn't party, says he takes those prescribed drugs, but they barely did anything. Whereas CoffeeZilla claims that insiders say he was useless without his MSAM patches. And then Sam brings up Bitfinex hack as an example of how to make consumers whole over time. Bitfinex tokenized the losses, and he's basically suggesting that FTX mints a token for people's losses to pay them back. Sam is still trying to sell. This con artist is still selling. And then Andrew asks him, well, what can people learn from his failure? And Sam goes on to explain how customers can be safe, talks about proof of reserves, which at this point many prominent people have pointed out is simply not enough without a statement of balance sheet of liabilities. CoffeeZilla compares it to asking Bernie Madoff how to avoid a Ponzi scheme. The gratifying thing in all of this is scrolling through the comments and seeing that literally nobody on crypto Twitter is buying any of it, and that we've kind of seen through too many of his lies at this point. The only concern here is whether or not he's bought enough people in the government. And there's a lot of puff pieces written about this whole story to people outside of crypto Twitter. And that's why crypto Twitter, for one, is really upset about this whole paid journalism thing, because most people outside of crypto Twitter would probably believe whatever headlines that the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, Bloomberg puts out, without really realizing what has actually happened on chain and in real time in front of thousands and thousands of crypto people on Twitter. They use the softest words to describe it, and you can watch all that in my YouTube short. It's kind of shocking because this is one of the first times that I've witnessed mainstream media blatantly write such misleading pieces. There's also a good thread. You know, he also thinks Sam play is to apologize, pay for these puff pieces, admit to negligence on TV, establish this criminal negligence narrative as the truth, and get a short plea deal, avoid a 20+ year sentence, avoid a lifetime of banishment, a la Madoff. I think what Sam realized and his lawyers didn't is that his case has transcended the legal layer and now he's on the political layer. The plea that his prosecutor seeks will be what Sam takes and politicians see as a win, and being honest for DealBook was smart because it establishes a view that criminal negligence was the crime, which it wasn't, among the elites. Getting Sam to go down for that lesser charge is a success story. Aside from this interview, Sam also recently had a casual interview with Tiffany Fung. Not sure exactly who she is, but in this exchange with her, he spoke very differently, with more likes than a Valley girl. Frankly, it was very hard to get through. I'll put a link to the full interview in the description for Be Brave. As a lot of the saying, he talks a lot without saying much, and at this point, it's kind of useless to look for truth from a liar's mouth. So why is Sam still walking free and sharing platforms with Emmy Award winners? You know, will he ever go to jail? Well, there seems to be conflicting arguments for both sides, but I'll present them both and let you decide which one is more persuasive. So there's a forecast article that's confident Sam will go to jail, maybe even for decades. Braden Perry, former senior trial attorney at CFTC and partner at law firm Kinney Hertz Perry, told Forecast that Bankman-Fried could even face life in federal prison without the possibility of supervised release. Perry said that under the federal sentencing guidelines, any loss above $550 million US adds 30 points to the base level, and so on and so forth. And if strictly enforced, and assuming minimal mitigating factors, Sam is sitting above 43 points, which is the maximum under the guidelines. Anthony Sabino, who is a professor at St. John's University School of Law in New York, told Forecast that the new CEO of FTX has raised issues of misstatements, deception, missing assets, and wrongful transfers in the company's recent filings with the Delaware Bankruptcy Court. If convicted, all these laws carry lengthy prison sentences, massive fines, and noticeably, disgorgement of unlawful profits. In sum, SBF could be reduced to poverty, which might be poetic justice given that the same fate has apparently befallen some of his investors. And then another news article by Bitcoin.com writes that Mark Cuban thinks, if I were SBF, I'd be afraid of going to jail for a long time. And despite everything, he still sees the value of cryptocurrency. He went on to say, you know, I talked to the guy and I thought he was smart. However, I had no idea he was going to take other people's money and put it to his personal use. What's actually crazy though is Cuban's view of the whole FTX meltdown is drastically different from his Shark Tank co-star Kevin O'Leary, who for some reason still insists that Bankman-Fried is one of the best traders in the crypto space and that he would do it all over again by backing the FTX co-founder again if he has another venture. Choose who you follow wisely. And in this article by Fortune Crypto, they know that one of the first hurdles to overcome with the case is jurisdiction, because FTX is an international offshore business. This is beyond the reach of US law enforcement. However, if the Justice Department can find a nexus linking overseas defendants to American shores, then it would likely be easy for prosecutors to form a tie between the FTX and US banks, emails, stateside meetings, or other interactions. And the second potential obstacle in this whole thing is the form of intent. There has to be evidence that he was deliberately deceiving investors instead of just being incompetent, which makes a lot more sense now looking at his actions and the angle he's trying to sell to everyone as this hopeless chap that just simply had no idea what was going on. A longtime crypto lawyer told Fortune he has no doubt that SBF's behavior and FTX's business practices clearly demonstrated fraud, pointed to evidence like FTX's terms of service, as well as the company's investor presentations and public statements made by SBF. But currently SBF is not charged with anything and would be presumed innocent until found guilty in court. And an unconfirmed report by Semaphore said several FTX executives had already flown to Hong Kong, but that SBF remained in the Bahamas. That's one side, right? But then on the other hand, you have an argument that says, maybe it won't be that bad. This article by CoinGate writes that SBF is likely to get lighter sentence if arrested, predicts XRP lawyer. So John Deaton, who is the lawyer for XRP holders in the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, asserted that FTX and BlockFi deal was also fraudulent. Assuming that he is prosecuted as he should be, don't be surprised when all is said and done if SBF gets a lighter sentence than others because he allegedly cooperates more or first. And he has a really long thread about this. He claims it is 100% fraud, that the question is not if, but when and how much. And to be fair, like, we've seen the high profile case of Elizabeth Holmes, who was the founder of Theranos, where she also defrauded millions and millions of dollars from investors by faking a product that didn't work. And ultimately, each of those counts carried hefty sentences, but in the end, she was only sentenced to a fraction of the maximum penalty. What's also interesting to see is a side-by-side comparison of the FTX collapse with the Enron collapse, because they are eerily similar. Enron, in October 2001, credit agencies lower Enron's credit rating, and Ken Lay sells almost 1 million shares of Enron while insisting everything is good. But then, a month later, in a desperate effort to save itself from bankruptcy, Enron explores merger or acquisition possibilities with its rival. Days later, its rival says they will not acquire Enron, and essentially sends their credit rating and stock price to nearly zero. Literally a few days later, December 2nd, Enron seeks Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, and December, Skilling tells New York Times, "I had no idea that the company was in anything but excellent shape." February 18th, a grand jury indicts Jeff Skilling on 35 counts. July 2004, nearly 3 years later, a grand jury finally indicts Ken Lay on 11 counts. Then January 2006, the jury selection begins. End of May, they convict Skilling of 19 counts of fraud, and Lay is convicted on all 6 counts of fraud. But later that year, Ken Lay is on vacation and dies. Then in December, Jeff begins serving his sentence in a low security prison in Waseca, Minnesota. So if you look at the whole thing, the beginning is almost exactly how the FTX and several high profile collapses happened in the crypto space. It always starts with everything is great. Then the CEOs and high executives claim incompetence. I had no idea what was going on. It's years until they get indicted. It's years until they begin the prison sentence. And even then, the sentence can be shortened for good behavior, etc. Not only that, but Ken Lay was actually taking vacation. And so was Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes has been living her best life. She's gotten married. She's pregnant, if not already had a kid. Went to Burning Man. All of this is happening years and years after Theranos completely imploded and the truth was exposed. So yeah, it does look like SBF is probably going to jail, but also it does seem like he's probably going to get a lighter sentence, and it'll take a long time, meaning he's going to have plenty of vacation days. He's going to have plenty of years to live his life out, live his best life. So now that you're caught up with everything, what do you think? Do you think he's going to go to jail for the full crime? Do you think that it will just be like a light slap on the wrist? Let me know your thoughts in the comment below. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.